off the show. As she patiently sat through that little intro, we have none other than a homegirl. But this homegirl has gone nationwide and made quite a name for herself. Talking about none other than Dr. Rowe, as she's known, Dr. Ravinia Brock. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my great pleasure.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, where do we even start? Dr. Rowe, some of you all may know her from BET Heart and Soul. Some of you may have known her from Sherri Shepherd's show. You may have seen her as a nutritional analyst and coach for so many networks. And so, like I said, her having her roots here in this area and then going on to do so much, we're ever so proud. But as I said, she is back in our area now, and I'm so glad we've made contact. She is known as America's nutritional coach, but we're gonna make her. That's right. Like we're gonna make her Central Virginia's nutritional coach starting here right now. but Dr. Rowe, I know I didn't do that any justice. Give the folks real quick sort of your journey, because I'm sure it's going to be inspiration as well for young women, particularly that's listening and from this area, maybe looking to get into the medical field, the nutritional field, knowing that being from here, as you proven, sky's still the limit.
Okay, so well, first of all, I come from a long line of country people,
right?
Out of Orange County, and
is that a compliment for families listening?
It is a compliment for everybody who's listening. Country people, because we do things a certain way, we eat a certain way, and we talk a certain way. I say, respect the country roots.
That's right.
All that to say, I first wanted to help my family because, my mama ran a juke joint, okay. In Barboursville. So she owned a taxi company and she owned this juke joint. And in the juke joint, there was a whole lot of pig feet and a bottle of beer and there's pig feet and potato salad and fried chicken sandwiches on white bread with greens cooked with fat back and served with a side of fat. So all that to say, yeah, it's a lot of that, right? So I first wanted to help my family. Okay, so when I went to undergrad at Virginia State, I set out I majored in nutrition because I wanted to do some good in my family. And that morphed into my community because I grew up in DC. I came here on weekends and summers since the day I was born almost, right? But in my community, as I looked around, they were in my family. There's a lot of heart disease. There's hypertension. There's type 2 diabetes. All of those diseases and conditions that we call lifestyle diseases. Okay. And so these are all also, they happen to be diseases that Black people suffer from disproportionately. Right. Okay. And so when I realized, my second grade classmate's father has to have what his son called his legs cut off. He had to have he was a double amputee because of diabetes, right? But when I looked at my own family, I realized that the community looked just like my family. Right. And so what my desire to help went from my family to my community. And when I started doing television and then got to national television and then nationally syndicated television on talk shows like The Oz Show, on talk shows like Meredith Vieira, Anderson Cooper, and doing the Today Show regularly, doing, CBS This Morning and GMA. So all of those shows.
Yeah, flex on them, Dr. Rowe.
All of my work in all of those places and spaces meant that now I had morphed from my family to my community to my country, right? So it went like that. I mean, I've been serving Black America for as long as I've been, a nutritionist, right? Yeah. But the fact is, there are no white or Black calories. That's right. Okay. So, and what is happening is if you put two Black women in a room, one of us is going to be clinically obese.
Wow.
That's a fact.
Just
Mm.
two.
Right? Just two, right? That we're talking
Mm.
about 50% of Black women.
Mhm.
Okay.
50%,
So yeah, and I've been doing this work so long that I remember when it was 1 in 4.
Mhm.
Okay. Now it's 1 in 2.
Let me ask a question there, though. Let me, and I'm sorry, Max, you want to go first?
We may have been getting ready to ask the same question,
Oh.
which is what's changed? Why the increase?
So I had a different question
Okay.
before that, though.
Okay.
Like, so let me preface that question, Dr. Rowe. So one thing that stands out to me, like I feel like that a lot of times the sort of the statistical norms
Mm-hmm.
are for people with, let's say, European figures, and because the medical industry is sort of, the Western medical industry is sort of written by that. So like when you look at your data and the people that you work with, like how much does that play a factor? Like when you say, well, we're Black women, we're naturally curvy, we kind of, like in ways you kind of handle your weight better. That's not the that's not the clinical way to say it. Like, but how do you balance that being a Black woman in a Caucasian majority medical?
So here's the thing, though, because you remember I just said there are no white or Black calories, right? So we can't get away with saying we big boned it.
Oh, we can't. Okay.
So we can't be big and healthy.
No, you can be overweight and healthy.
Mhm.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But you cannot get away with saying I'm big boned it.
Mm.
Ain't no big boned it. That's not what's happening here. Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, the Lord don't do that. And on this Lord's Day, let's keep it real, right? So no, it's not about being big boned. The fact is we all have an age. We have a chronological age and we have an age inside. You have an outside age and you have an age inside. I like to say I also have a street age. Okay. My street age is about 20 years younger than my chronological age. You see, because that's what you see when you experience me.
Okay.
But I will say this, your body has an age inside. Your internal organs have an age, and they may not be on par with your chronological age because of what's going on inside your body. Now, I do agree with you, Charles, that we can't use the BMI. Right. To predict whether or not we're obese, because we do. We typically, Black people have greater muscle mass, than our white brothers and sisters, right? Having said that, so the BMI doesn't really, and anyway, let me just back this up for a second. The BMI was not meant to be a predictor of obesity. It was meant to say you might be a little bit more susceptible, okay, if your waistline is this or that, right?
And for those that don't know, body mass index.
Body mass index, right? So we're not looking anymore at, and I'm glad, because to your point, for Black people, we were not, the accuracy of obesity for us wasn't there. We do have greater muscle mass, but the problem for us, because we do have greater muscle mass, and because if we are sedentary and not active and not engaged in strength training, which means we want to keep those muscles, you know what happens? We get more flab. And you see that we become bigger, right? There are a number of reasons that contribute to our obesity, including multiparity. After a woman has one child, if she has the second child and didn't lose the baby weight from the first one, by the time she gets to the third, fourth, and fifth child, it's all that way for each of those births. You see what I'm saying? So multiparity is one.
I've had 5 kids. Okay.
Look, see, and nobody could look at you.
You were just talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody could look at you and tell that. Okay. So you've been doing something right.
I'm trying to. Good genes.
Did that answer your question too, Matt?
Yeah, but I do have a question. Is obesity hereditary? Can it be?
No. Obesity is more attributed to environmental factors.
Okay.
It's not hereditary. It's not that it's heredity. It's just that the people who share the heredity live in the same houses and eat the same foods, and they share the same habits. You see what I mean? Which takes me back to the beginning of this conversation. I needed to break the mold of my family's pattern. Eating pattern. Right. Now, what am I saying? I'm not telling anyone that you have to give up your culture in order to be healthy. That isn't true. But if you're going to have, and in fact, the foods that we eat, many soul foods, especially vegetables, right? Especially vegetables go a long way to protect us from those chronic diseases that I mentioned earlier. But you got to cook them differently. Okay, we got to get the fat back out of the collard greens. Right?
Come on,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Rose.
we got to get the fat back.
But it ain't gonna taste the same, though, right?
No.
Baby,
But
I can
serious
cook
question, though,
collard
right?
greens. I could cook collard greens for you, and you got your same hot sauce and vinegar and all of that stuff that you like to put on it. And I use no meat,
And it tastes the same.
zero meat,
Okay.
and it
Look, prove it.
tastes better. It tastes better. You know why? Because see, you see the pot of collard greens sits on the stove, you know, all day long, and it becomes browns, not greens. Okay, that's the reason why they want you to. The old folks want to tell you about drinking pot liquor. You drinking pot liquor because because the nutrients have been leached into that water. That's the other thing. I don't use a lot of water. Okay, so for a batch of greens, maybe a cup of water, maybe a cup. Okay, but with some extra virgin olive oil. Okay.
You know,
Yes.
shout out to vegan soul food too. Like that's a new sort of industry, and we have like a great like food truck here too, like that does vegan soul food, and they're starting to pop up in a lot of Black communities too.
Yeah. And although you don't have to be vegan to be healthy.
Oh, true.
Okay,
Absolutely.
but I think it's a great move. It's a move in the right direction, and kudos to them. I'm making my way through restaurants and eateries around town, so I'll make my way to the vegan soul food truck.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this question regarding, and ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Dr. Rowe, America's nutritional coach. You can see more about her at everythingro.com. But
And that's just RO.
It's right, RO, everythingro.com.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. So in regards to what you just said too, like one thing that kind of is sort of a pet peeve to me, because I see, you know, majority of folks in my family do it, and I know it's sort of a cultural thing as well, automatically adding salt to our food.
And you
Like,
haven't
without even
tasted it.
tasting it.
You
Yes.
haven't tasted
It's
it.
like, why do we
You've
do
got to
that?
take because they're anticipating that it's not going to be palatable for them, right?
Yeah.
Because of old habits. Again, if we could change some of our old habits, we can change our lives. That's just the truth.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
And also
Yeah.
not considering the different ingredients they've used to go into whatever dish that
Yeah.
already contains.
Yeah, and let me just say one thing about salt. Not only are we raising our blood pressures, but we're losing our taste buds.
Yes.
Salt is not a seasoning. It's not an herb. It's not a seasoning. It is a flavor enhancer. Enhancer. It a little bit is supposed to enhance the flavor of what the natural food is. You are not supposed to be flavoring your food with salt.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So how do we retrain our
Brains.
palate? Yeah, brain and palate. Because I think, you know, it even makes me think about sweet tea, right?
Oh
Like-
gosh.
Like sometimes when I drink sweet tea, I'm like, this is way
Yeah.
too much sugar. But
It's like a cup. Listen,
Yeah,
I
but we've
moved
been
here from
trained.
Alabama, okay?
Oh,
Where,
wow.
where sweet tea is
Yeah.
the water of the
Yeah.
state.
Sweeter the better.
Yeah. And it's like a cup of sugar in a cup of sweet tea.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's so bad that like when we drink something that's sweetened sort of just right, like we don't even think it has sugar in it half the time.
So let's talk about the fact that for sugar substitutes, like, you know, your Splendas, your, you know, Equals, your, you know, and many others, right? So many of these sugar substitutes are 6 to 10 times, sometimes a couple hundred times sweeter than sugar, right? And this is how it works. So the more you consume them, your taste buds change. So first you start out, you like a slice of cake here and there,
Absolutely.
Charles. You like a little slice of cake.
Absolutely.
So you keep putting sugar. You keep putting sugar substitutes in your coffee or in your tea or on something, right? And the more you consume, your slice of cake becomes a hunk of cake because your taste buds have not picked up on the fact that you've got enough.
Mhm.
Okay. So your taste for sugar becomes greater. Does that make sense?
I got you.
Yeah, yeah. And think of something that's 6 times to a couple hundred times sweeter than sugar, right?
Mhm.
So if you take this, if you ingest this over time, you're going to be using more sugar. And not only will you be using more sugar, the other danger is, and the real danger is that you're going to crave sweet foods.
I crave, yeah.
Yeah, you crave sweet
Yeah.
foods.
The food is killing us. It's
Yeah.
killing us.
Our forks are killing us.
Yes.
Yes, they are. But there's hope. We can change this. We can turn
Let's
this
do it.
around.
Mhm.
Right? We
Mhm.
can absolutely turn this around. This is not a hopeless situation. Black people are not a problem people. We're just people with a few problems.
Mhm.
All
I
of
like
which
that.
can be worked out. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to change our habits.
Mhm.
We got to get up off the couch and get moving.
Mm.
Because a sedentary life will kill you. Sitting is the new cancer.
Mhm.
And if you move 1 to 2 minutes every hour that you sit, whether it's in front of a TV screen, in front of a computer screen, whatever it is, 1 to 2 minutes, move 1 to 2 minutes, you can cut your cancer risk in half. In half by 50%.
Wow.
Right?
That's good numbers.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So here's what I would like to see happen for us.
Mhm.
We change our eating patterns and the way we approach food,
Mhm.
the way we engage with food. And this is really important because many people are medicating themselves with food.
Mhm.
You get, if you have
Emotional eating.
emotional eating.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I coach a lot of emotional eaters.
Mhm.
Yeah. The problems that they're grappling with usually started in childhood.
Mhm.
It's a mental health issue.
Mhm.
But the truth is, if we don't get a hold of it, that child, wherever your development was arrested, will take over your life. Period. Right.
Yeah.
So here's what I want us to do here's what I'd love your plate and your meal to look like.
Okay.
This is how we turn it. I want you to I want you to make 50%, half of your meal or your plate, colorful vegetables and fruit. Why? Because the pigments that give the produce its color go a long way to protect you. They contain chemical compounds like phytochemicals that go a long way to protect you from these same chronic diseases from which we suffer disproportionately, right? So half your plate or your meal is colorful vegetables and fruit.
Now let me just say though, sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical about the vegetables and fruits that are in our different stores too. Does it have to be from your local farmers market and things like that? Because these frozen things got all these additives and
no, if the frozen vegetables are good as well. They're great alternatives.
Okay.
They're more economical. If you have the storage space, for example, frozen broccoli or frozen spinach or frozen greens, these are good bets, right? And they're economical bets. You just don't want the broccoli with cheese sauce.
Okay.
That's where you get into trouble because now you're talking about upping your sodium content, and you're talking about the additives and those kinds of things that but no, flash frozen, produce is a great option. Okay. As best you can, colorful vegetables, fresh produce, colorful vegetables and fruit. I recommend, but frozen is definitely an option.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you don't want canned because we're just talking about sodium at that point, right?
Yeah, when you're talking about that, and I'm sorry, I know you were giving I don't want to interrupt you. Make sure you get through
finish out, round out your plate. So you have 50% left, right? So you take a quarter of that. That's going to be lean protein in the forms of fish, chicken, turkey, beans. Eggs, nuts, seeds. Yeah. Okay. So if you're vegan, you can do this on a vegan diet. If you're not, and you want to add, meat, then go on and do it. I would say for red meat though, you want to do that no more than say 4 ounces once a week. And the reason is because there's growing evidence of the link between red meat and cancer.
I'd like
a number of those. Yeah. Well, I didn't say you couldn't have it. I said let's do it in moderation. And here's the other thing: take your red meat and make it not the main attraction, but an accompaniment to the meal, like in a stir fry. Okay,
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
you're gonna have lean protein. Okay,
Okay.
that's quarter of it, and the other quarter you're gonna round it out with whole grains. Okay, whole grains.
Mhm.
So farro, quinoa,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and others, and even whole wheat
Mhm.
from the right sources.
Okay.
Okay. I say, like I like things like Ezekiel breads and cereals. Now, Ezekiel bread is a whole carbohydrate meant to do exactly that functions to do exactly what it's supposed to, and that is to give you energy.
Okay.
Right. It's flat. There's no there's no wheat flour in the bread. So I say go with things like these are whole grains that have not been adulterated, if you will. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the local farming in regards to where we purchase our foods? Because there's some folks who feel like that the only way to eat fresh is if you get it from a local farm.
I think if you have the option of a local farm, use it. Okay.
Or farmers markets
Or with farmers markets, absolutely use it. But that's not the only. There's no one way to do this. That's the point I'm making. There's no. It's you shop wherever you can, right? If you live 20 miles from a farmer's market, then maybe that's not your thing.
Right.
But if you're in the city and you want to cook, you live in a community living situation, apartments and that sort of thing, and maybe you start your own farmers market.
Yeah.
Maybe you buy from local farmers. Maybe you start your own co-op. This can happen, right? Maybe neighbors go to the farms or go to the place where you procure the food and bring it back for other people in the building.
Yeah.
Who don't have transportation, and maybe you rotate that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There is more than one way to handle this, but it must be handled.
Yeah.
Going back to something that you mentioned earlier during the interview, as far as people dealing with medical issues that are simply a result of their lifestyle changes, their eating habits. And I have seen that up close and personal in recent months with losing people that I love or having loved ones who are dealing with a lot of those issues. And it has made me reflect on making better chances so that the people around me that I care about when I get old and I can't do for myself and I'm really relying on somebody else, I'm not choosing what their future is going to look like because they have to find the nursing home for me to go to or the in-home CNA to come and help take care of me or how to get me back and forth to the hospital because I'm dealing with these severe issues and things like that. And I think people need to understand that while you're sitting there enjoying your plate of pig feet in the moment, right, you are making a choice for the people that love you, little boo-boo and them that's running around right now. You're making choices of what their future will look like because they will be the ones to have to care for you.
And you better be nice to little boo-boo because little boo-boo might have a nursing home folks.
That's true.
So be kind to these young folks coming up behind you. I would say anybody that's having to play the pig feet right now in this day and age, we need to talk. We need to talk.
Hey, you're not in DC anymore now, Rose. Like you're back in the country.
But to play the pig, I'm just saying, there are other options. I do understand. So I think more people are concerned about themselves and not the people who might have to rely on.
Precisely.
Right? Okay. They're making in the moment decisions. A lot of people are making in the moment decisions. And I'm telling you, speaking to the women and families whom I coach and have coached over the years, they're really just trying to get to the bottom of their stuff. Right? Because there's a lot to get to the bottom of, which is the reason why we find ourselves in this predicament. There's a reason that over half of America is overweight or obese, right? There's a reason that half of Black America is obese, okay? We got a lot of pain that we need to deal with. There's a lot of pain and there's a lot of suffering. And people find a quick fix in the food.
Yeah.
If I just get this, I can feel better for just another moment. I understand. I get it, right? So and the way forward is to help them. This is my job, to help them to get to the bottom of where it all went off the tracks. Right? What actually happened to you? And now how are we going to deal with it?
That's right. That's good.
Okay. I think that's a perfect spot to take a break, and we can come back for the last half of this interview with the great Dr. Rowe. And like I said, you can find out more about her books that are available and everything, and even get some personal nutritional advice. Reach out to her through everythingrowe.com.
Yes, I am a coach for everyone.
America's nutrition coach.
Yes,
indeed. So IMHO Talk Show. Tell a friend, tell a friend. We are live and in living color, and we will be right back with Dr. Rowe.
Seville's only choice for R&B.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show.
Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion.
With Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
In My Humble Opinion, only on 101.
Yes. IMHO Talk Show. Tell a friend, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. They're here with us, Miss
They
Max.
are. Appreciate you.
That's right.
Stay a while.
That's right. Kick off your shoes and relax your feet. Sir Charles, Miss Max, joined by none other than Dr. Rowe, giving great nutritional advice. Of course, because she's America's nutrition coach. And so been getting great tips. But I want to dig a little deeper into your personal journey, your personal story.
Mm-hmm.
Because you even mentioned like witnessing your mom, and she sounds like one of the original entrepreneurs, and I gotta imagine like that's where you got your business prowess from.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about that relationship and the inspiration from all of that.
Well, I mean, so she was a working mom who managed a taxi company during the week, and on the weekends she would come down here and open up her juke joint. But as smart as she was, she could not translate her business sense into taking better care of herself. Okay, so I lost my mother to metastatic stomach cancer when I was 9.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
She was the youngest of 10 children. And so I would say that I taught people how to do their family medical tree in my first book, right? 10 Secrets to Living Healthy. But the reason I did so was because I needed to understand it for myself, so that I could help others. So when you look at my medical family tree, you see cancer, you see type 2 diabetes, and a big one is hypertension and peripheral vascular disease. Now, my family called it having poor circulation, right? But the truth is, I had 2 uncles who became double amputees because of peripheral vascular disease. My grandfather died as a result of a massive stroke, and then later many strokes. Okay, small strokes. So these, this is a very serious issue for me. It is a calling for me because it has ravaged the people I love, for so long, and I think needlessly in many cases and preventively. Right.
Yeah.
So I had my mother is my raison d'etre, if you will. Okay. And then my guardian who took over for her was a country girl from North Carolina, from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And her eating habits were no better. It was still the same stuff. So I really needed to do something about it. I felt I could help. I was born, I'm a born helper, right? And so I felt I could help. And so it led me to going to undergraduate school at Virginia State, to get a degree in nutrition. And then I worked after that in clinical settings, in hospitals and nursing homes as a nutritionist and a nutrition educator. And then decided I wanted to go to graduate school. And so I did my master's at Howard and
awesome.
At the Mecca.
Okay.
And then
the HU, is that what you
yes,
said?
the only HU.
Shots fired.
So there's that. And then when I get to the end of my master's degree, I am led to complete an application, which my mentor at the time slides across a desk and says, I want you to fill this out. And I said, well, what is this? And he says, this is an application for the Patricia Roberts Harris Doctoral Fellowship. You are PhD material. I want you to do this. Now, I'll have to say, 10 years before that, 10 years earlier, standing in Gandy Hall at Virginia State, looking at a careers in dietetics bulletin board, I said to my best friend, who is now a nutritionist because of me, I said to her, I recruited her into the program.
Each one teach one.
I said to her, I don't want to be a dietitian. I want a PhD. I wanted to make a difference on a larger level. And then we just kind of laughed it off and said, yeah, but who would pay for it? Because I didn't have anybody to pay for it. 10 years later, I end up getting a doctoral fellowship, and I got a PhD for free from Howard.
Look at God.
When you do it.
Look at God.
Indeed.
Yes.
So let me sort of back you up a little bit there. How important, as maybe in retrospect, was going to an HBCU, and not just one, but going through two. And I want to link that to how you were saying how the muscle mass is more for Black females, and the way we think about that there seems to be this belief in the medical industry that Black women can endure more pain. And then you hear these stories about how Black women aren't being served properly.
This goes back to the father of
childbirth.
gynecology.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who did these horrific acts on enslaved African women. So I don't know what. So it's not just Black women. It's Black people who don't often get, who don't get the care that we need in medical facilities across the country, because if we're not looked upon as a threat, then we're looked upon as somebody who doesn't need help. We're either a threat or we're inhuman, right? And clearly, neither of those is true.
Right.
Okay. So I think the medical community does have a large cross to bear, given its history. And there are many people that are doing something about it, and they don't all look like us either. They're just responsible Americans who know right is right and wrong is wrong, period. Okay. Having said that, I took you asked me about this. I took my act to television.
Right.
Yeah. So I became the nutrition correspondent and then the medical correspondent for BET News. And then after that, a show came along called Heart and Soul, which was the first health and fitness show for African American women on national television. Right. That's awesome. And so I was the host of Heart and Soul. And my co-host happens to be from Charlottesville, Mocha Lee, whose parents live in this area still, right? And the two of us show up, on set. Back in those days, this is before we had wardrobe. Like, you had to have your own wardrobe. This is embryonic. No, we didn't have to do our own hair, but we did have to. Early in the show, we had to bring our own wardrobe, and both of us showed up with baby blue pantsuits, never having met each other, and we have the same birthday.
Oh,
Wow.
Right. So.
Sounds
synergy.
like BFFs, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So all that to say, going to BET and serving there allowed me to make the difference that I was hoping to make on large numbers of people, in helping large numbers of people to get healthy and well.
Yeah.
Right?
Now for some people that'll be a pinnacle. Like saying, Mom, Mama, I made it, kind of thing, BET.
Yeah.
But then your next step, and what I'm curious about your next steps is, I'm interested to hear who may have been sort of the most impactful, most influential celebrity that you encountered, working with.
That I coached, or that just working with them.
Yeah.
Or that I was a correspondent for.
Or either or. Because a lot
most impactful. I mean, so listen. when you get to nationally syndicated television, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. This is, you know, it's kind of the pinnacle. If you get to be the host of your own nationally syndicated show, like my girl Sherry Shepherd, then you have reached the pinnacle. Okay. So I went from doing the Oz show for over 7 years to 2 seasons on Anderson Cooper, who had his own nationally syndicated show out of New York. After that, Meredith Vieira came up with her own nationally syndicated television show, and I'm grateful to say that I got the call on all of these shows to be their nutrition coach, right? So I served on all of those shows. At the same time, you know, I had a stint on. I had my own segment on National Public Radio. I had a segment on CBS This Morning, and made regular appearances on the Today Show and some on GMA. So nationally syndicated television and national television would be the pinnacle, right? And the reason this is so important is because you reach more people if you really set out to do something to contribute mightily. This is one way to do it. Now you have the internet, and so it expands that exponentially, right? But yeah, it was a great. So now I'm doing the Sherry Show. I contribute, so I'm nutrition coach to the Sherry Show.
So when we think about women's empowerment, and particularly Black women's empowerment, what did you feel like your responsibility or obligation was as a Black female in the industry or with the public platform or what have you? And you know, what example, if you will, were you trying to set for other young Black women who were looking to you as an example of what could be? So,
you know, I take life seriously, but not myself, if that makes any sense. So I don't go around thinking about, hey, I'm here and this is what I'm doing. I just try to be the very best example to those who follow me, right? So, and I try to open a door. So I've mentored many women, many young women, you know, who wish to do what I do, right? So, and I think that's the way I've handled it, gracefully, by being available to them, and by being the very best example of womanhood first, before becoming a broadcaster. I'm a woman first, right? So by being, and frankly, I'm a human. So by being the very best human, there's some nasty humans out here, today, right?
So what helped you to stay grounded, if you will, or say consistent or persistent throughout that time? Because surely you face different challenges, whether we're talking. Go ahead.
Oh my God. I have all of these yeses that I just told you about. I have 100 no's. But I do believe, so persistent. Let's talk about the persistence first, because this is key. I just believe that I'm just willing to go through 1,000 no's to get to my one yes. Right? Because I literally am on a mission. Okay, I have been on this mission my entire career. Okay, at one point I had helped over 1.5 million people, you know, lose, you know, more than 5 million pounds, right? Like at one fell swoop. A lot of weight, right? So, but you do that in partnership with nationally syndicated television and with newspapers. Like I was working with the New York Daily News, right? So all that to say, you know, I'm willing to do what I have to do to get to my one yes, right? But while I'm doing that, I'm staying true to my calling. See, for many people, this is a job. This is a job for me. This is my calling. So I honor the calling at all times. That kind of, everything else just kind of takes care of itself.
You can't ask for more than that. They really can. You
Yeah.
know?
Honor the calling, respect the calling.
Yeah,
Yes,
I believe it was
yes.
Will Smith that said successful people experience way more no's. It's just that we only see the yeses.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and the people that you call successful have failed far more
Yeah,
times,
failure.
you know, than you've seen their successes
That's
and
right.
you've experienced their successes. But that's how you get there. Life is about a series of small steps. Okay. And if you set out to do anything great, it will come in a series of small steps. It's not going to happen in one fell swoop. That's just not how it is.
Need a hand clap or something.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I mean,
Church clap.
yeah, I mean the whole time I could have just let the audience respond the whole time. Yeah. So Dr. Rowe, thank you for joining us. Absolutely. And I think you kind of answered my question too of like the most impactful, because I was thinking about a lot of times we see celebrities and whatnot, and what the public sees is totally different. You know what I mean? Like, but I want to say that you are definitely a beacon of light. Your humbleness and your realness, in your work is definitely refreshing.
I thank you.
So please keep up the great work.
I thank you. People call me a celebrity nutritionist. I've never seen myself as a celebrity. I'm a
That's a good
servant.
thing.
I'm a servant.
That's
I am a
awesome.
servant.
That's awesome. And definitely want to remind people too, you have a new book in paperback, Lose Your Final 15. So everythingroad.com is where you can find it. Anything you want to say about that real quick?
Yeah. You get the book.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Get the book, because if you want to change your life, there are many ways in which you could do that with the information in this book. Get the book.
You got a
Yeah.
cookbook out there?
No, but I have over 45 recipes in this book.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, we might find out how to make the greens in that book.
Yeah, my lean greens.
Okay.
Lean
Yes,
greens.
yes, my lean greens.
Yeah. So Dr. Rowe, till next time.
I
Please,
look
stay
forward
safe.
to
We'll
it.
be in touch.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great privilege.
Thank you.